Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to share with you my second quarter reading wrap up. In this one we are going to go through some stats, and then also we will go through my spring TBR to see how I did with my reading this season. Now you can see it is quite stacked and there isn't even all the books on here that I kind of plan to read in the spring. I don't really know how well this aligns with the spring TBR I uploaded because I had to do a bit of like shuffling around of books because of readathons. However, this represents kind of my plan and we will see how well I did with that. But before we get into those books, let's quickly talk through the month. And we're starting things out in April. April was a readathon month. So in April, I had 5 books from my TBR on my list to read. Out of those 5 books, I started 4 and finished 3, which is quite good for me personally. So I'm definitely not mad about that. I also finished 1 book I had left over from March from my TBR. So that also helped. And taking this together, 44% of the books I have read in April were from my TBR, which was quite good. I like this to be over 50, didn't quite reach that, but we take what we can get. I had 1 book checked out from the library in April. However, I started this book but did not quite finish it in April, so 0% of the books I read in April were from the library. Next up, we're switching over into May. May again was a readathon month and I didn't really have like a good amount of books for that readathon on my TBR, so things switched around a little bit. So I had again 5 books on my TBR to read in May. Out of those 5 books, I started 2 and finished 1, and I also finished 1 that I had left over from April. So that means in May, 20% of the books that I read were from my TBR. As you can tell, that is quite far away from the 50% where I wanted to be, so that was a little bit more sad. However, in May, I had 4 books checked out from the library, and I started and finished all 4 of these books, so 40% of my reading in May was library books, and that is a lot more than I would usually want because my main goal is to reach that 0 TBR, so I have to read the books on my TBR. Unfortunately, in June, when I didn't have any readathons going on, I could just read whatever I wanted. I didn't quite manage to turn it around completely. In June, to kind of make up for the things, I had 7 books from my TBR on my monthly TBR. Out of those 7, I started 4 and finished 3, as well as finishing off 1 leftover book from May. So taking that together, 40% of my reading in June were my TBR books. Again, not reaching those magical 50% I was going for. And then I had checked out 4 books from the library and I started and finished all 4 of these books in June. So 40% of my reading were also library books. So again, much too high for what I want to achieve here. Now you might be wondering that these numbers don't come up to 100% because I also tend to read audiobooks that I buy or that I have access to for free, so those make up the remaining percent. So now that we've had a good look at the months of failure in the second quarter, let's see how many of these books I actually managed to read. And let's start out with the series that I don't own physically, so we don't forget about it, because in the second quarter I wanted to read the Rook and Rose trilogy. That would be the Mask of Mirrors, which I've read, the Liar's Knot, which I've read, and then Labyrinth Heart, which I'm currently reading, so I didn't quite finish it in time, but it will be read very soon. Then for the second series I wanted to read, I have the Between Earth and Sky series. So we have Black Sun, which I've read. We have Fevered Star, which I've read. And last but not least, we have Mirrored Heavens, which I have read. I think this book might have not been originally on my spring TBR when I uploaded it, but I pulled this one forwards from like later on in the year when I thought I would read it, because I did a buddy read for this with Cleo from the Channel by Muse Bookworm. So we have The Spear Cuts Through Water, which I've read also. Then we have Bare Bones by Katie Reichs, the 6 books in the Temperance Brennan series, which I've read. We have Acht Berge, 8 Mountains by Paolo Cognetti, which I've read. And we have a German book, Lass uns tanzen, Fräulein Lena by Hannah Aden, which I have read. Now this is where the good news ends. We have another German book, Die Unglückseligen by Thea Dorn, which I have not read. We have a collection of stories and fairy tales by Oscar Wilde, which I have not read, as you can tell, still in the plastic. We have My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which I have not read. We have The Women's History of the Modern World by Rosalind Miles. I have not read this one. However, I have swippery doodled this around, so this will also go on my summer TBR. We have The 120 Days of Sodom by Marquis de Sade, which I have not read. The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor, which I have not read. And last but not least, we have Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, which I have not read. Now, I gotta be honest, looking at those two stacks next to me right now, they're pretty much the same height. And I don't even have the Rook and Rose books, so those would like cancel it out a little bit more. I thought I did even worse. Now looking at it, I don't feel so bad anymore, but I definitely read a lot more library books than I had originally planned to read in the month. And so yeah, this second quarter really wasn't very helpful when it comes to reducing my physical TBR, unfortunately. So I have already uploaded my summer TBR if you want to go check it out. I have a feeling I will do much better with it, but on the other hand, I did quite well with this in April and then kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit. So who knows what's gonna happen. In about 3 months, we will meet here again and reconvene, talk about that third quarter. But yeah, for now, I have to find my TBR reduction reading mojo. Wish me luck. Leave a like and a nice comment. I would love to hear what your reading been like so far this year. Like, have you a very strong reading year, or are you struggling a little bit maybe as well? Would love to hear about that. Also, please subscribe if you want to see more of my TBR reduction journey, which is a bumpy road. It's a bumpy road. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye!